Now, where did I put it? Ah, here it is.
Welcome to the Toolbox, where my guests and I discuss the tools they use every day to manage life, trauma, and everything in between. It may not be applicable right now, but it's another tool for your toolbox. And I hope you enjoy.
All right, welcome back. We are day 2, day 3. Read day 3.
I guess registration was day 1, yeah.
Yeah.
Day
All
2 was jumping.
Well, welcome back, Tools to the Toolbox. I am Chance Burles, as you know, and I have another outstanding guest to bring to you from Operation Pegasus Drop Special Edition. We have with us the man, the legend, Shaun Taylor. What for the people that don't know, who are you, and what is your military background?
My name is Shaun Taylor, and I am a retired warrant officer from the Canadian Armed Forces, formerly from Tier 1 Special Operations, Joint Task Force 2, and happy to be here on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure having you back. This has been third time you've been on now? Fourth time?
Who knows?
Yeah,
We're losing track.
Yeah, exactly. So
Too many.
we're in a bit of a shortage of people here, so whatever. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel to get this one in here.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
My apologies.
So the question right off the bat, first thing I've been asking everybody is, what are you doing here? Like, what's the plan here? What's going on?
Well, I think a quick backstory on Operation Pegasus Jump. This all came about through an initiative with the Campbell River Skydiving Center crew and Tim Turner and some other veterans. Tim is the guy that I know the best. Sometimes he's the guy I wish I knew the least.
Sometimes.
But through Tim's efforts, Tim is a long-time old friend who's an awesome dude, and I was just all about trying to support it if I could. And as the months went by and as things shaped up, I was able to commit to it. And commit meaning that I wanted to come out here and be with all the other veterans and do some jumping myself, but also bringing my 2 sons along, Evan and Keegan, my 18 and 17-year-olds, and that was and has been fantastic for me. And as it turns out, a few other people seem to think it's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, getting thrown out of planes and stuff is kind of fun.
Yeah, it is kind of fun,
and
it's kind of it's not just kind of fun, but it's kind of a life-defining moment for some people. That first jump is impactful in ways that some people still won't understand. They're going to be processing this for days and weeks, perhaps.
Absolutely, and not only that, it's going to be it's that little mental gut check.
Yeah, for sure, which we all need as often as possible, I believe.
I couldn't agree more with that. But so I watched you yesterday huck your boys out of a plane, and I'm just going to dive right into the hard questions here. So
yeah, sure, bring it.
What was in your mind what was going through your mind when you watched your youngest son, or your oldest son, who went first, right?
That's right. That's right.
So watching your oldest son step out onto the wing of a plane on his own, and then bye-bye.
That's right. Well, for all the dads out there who have experienced this, I'm not sure how many there are. I'm sure there's lots, but I felt like I was in somewhat of a unique situation in the sense that I'm a reasonably seasoned parachutist myself. I've got over 350 jumps, but it's been quite some time since I jumped. In fact, my last parachute descent was out of a CC-130 Hercules when I was with JTF2. So it's been back in the day, and I myself had some nerves. I had some trepidation. I also have a healthy, maybe too healthy fear of heights. So I was a little nervous up there myself. It had been a long time. I was experiencing new things, but it was a double dip situation because I had my 2 young boys with me. And not only did I feel the moment for myself, but I was also feeling the moment for them. I'm not going to say I'm an overprotective father, but I do my level best to make sure that I'm setting my boys up for success and keeping them as safe as possible in typically what we prefer to do in our household, and that is to chase enough adversity that it forms character throughout your life.
That's a great thing. I mean, the stuff that I look back on when I was a kid, were the most challenging things I did. So it's like the things that I enjoyed the most, playing football, which is challenging in and of itself, being able to track, hunt, and move around in the wilderness, move cattle by myself, ride horses by myself. Like, it was always about the challenge in and of itself. And this flag is really liking you for some reason.
Well, I have a magnetic personality.
Oh, there we go.
Can't pass up those opportunities.
And we got a whole crew watching us right now too, so they're all like,
they're all smirking.
Yeah, like, gotta get it on that camera now, buddy. But what were some of your thoughts when you watched your son, even your youngest or your oldest, when he disengaged the plane? What were some of the thoughts going through your head?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. I will get to it now. So, not my concerns, but my considerations were solved before I got into the plane with them. And first and foremost, I have implicit trust in the only Canadian veteran-run drop zone in Canada, is where we're at, which is populated by instructors that have deep resumes, have excellent skill sets, not only in the technical applications of parachuting safely from the A to Z, but they also have a deep and respected pedigree within the veteran community. And so for that reason alone, I felt if I was ever going to put my boys out of a plane onto a drop zone, it was going to be this one. Now, once I learned about the pedigree and depth of skill and technical talents out here, and speaking with Tim Turner, I came to realize that it was perhaps less about the jumping and more about all of us getting together as veterans and communing, as it were. But still, the jump has to happen, and I had to make sure that my boys were safe in the moment. And before we got on that plane, I knew they were safe. From the moment we started ground training until the moment we climbed onto that plane, there wasn't a moment or a hesitation in my mind where I thought, this is a no-go. This is not what we signed up for. This is not happening. I'm pretty particular with who my boys hang out with when it comes to adverse situations. I want them to face adversity. I want them to adjust in the moment. But given the choice, rather than putting them out in the wilderness in just a loincloth and a dull knife and say, hunt that tiger, I would prefer to put them into adverse conditions where they are surrounded by excellence that they can mirror in the moment, where if they're seeking leadership in a millisecond or a moment, that they can turn to their left and right and see someone who has been there and done that and is inspiring enough in that millisecond moment where my boys are seeking something just a little extra that I can't provide or they can't provide themselves, then bam, it's right there in front of them, as clear could be. And listen, when we were up in that plane, who was sitting in front of them, who was putting them out of that plane? It was my good friend Tim Turner, and I've got some good buddies with some really deep pedigrees and guys that I would trust with my life, my family's life, with many other lives, and Tim's one of them. So in the moment, as my first son was dangling on that strut and about to let go, I did have hesitation. I was less concerned about the safety or all of the possibilities, because there's no time to worry about that in the moment. I was mostly focused on, in the moment, how to support each boy uniquely, boutiquely, specifically for them on the second by second basis, not just to prop them up or structure a construct around them so that they felt like they were 100% ready to go. It was just feeling out the moment each second with them to make them experience the moment, for them to feel right about what they were doing, and then to let them process it as they were ready to let go. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Have you had an opportunity to really sit down with them and let them process through it, or are you waiting for another time before that?
No, that's a great question. So, I kept it, and this is not this is not my template. This is not my recipe for every single adverse situation that my boys have ever been in, or whenever we're on big adventures. This is not like a script that I deploy on a phase by phase by phase basis at a set timeline. Each situation is unique, and each boy is different from, as we all are. We're all different from each other, and what I initially did was just check in with each of the boys and just kind of try to make them feel the excitement of the moment and how well they did and how proud I am of them, and really let them know that I love them being awesome in the moment. And then I've intentionally stepped aside from all of that and let them kind of hang out with themselves. I left them back at our Airbnb later in the evening, and I came down here, to the drop zone, and we kind of all hung out and we chatted about a bunch of things. I think we probably created more problems than we solved.
Absolutely.
But, that went until about nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, and,
Yeah.
and then when the boys woke up this morning, I checked in with them. We kind of had a chill day and didn't dive deep into the details of anything. I wasn't trying to make them own the moment. I wasn't painting them into a corner where they had to make a decision of yes, no, up, down, in, out. We were just kind of casually talking, and I was feeling them out, letting them kind of dive deeper and deeper and deeper into their own personal experience, so that this evening, almost 24 hours after the event, I'll be able to enter into a more thoughtful and perhaps contemplative conversation with them at that time.
Yeah, roger that. It actually kind of reminds me. I had a buddy of mine. We were overseas together, and he had gone into a rather difficult, challenging QRF situation. We lost some friends. He had to be the one that actually engaged that directly, which was challenging for him. Obviously, challenging is for everybody. And the one thing that happened when he got back was everyone was just on him. Questions. Hey, man, what was going on? What are you doing? How are you feeling? Blah, 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 blah. And he just, he was not there. And I walked up to him and I gave him a pack of smokes. And I was like, dude, when you're ready, I'll be out back. We can chat it out. And at 12:30 that night, it was probably 6-7 hours later, he came out, sat down, we had a cigarette, and chatted it out. And I love the fact that your first response isn't to jump on them and be like, hey man, how does it go? What does it feel?
Are we going again tomorrow?
Yeah, are we
going
again
in 30 minutes?
Exactly. It was just let them process, let them be them, let them be with the moment and feel it, which is really great. I really like I wish I had more people do that when I was younger.
Well, you and me both. And,
Yeah.
and listen, this is not something that I've been good at forever. With my boys, it's a evolutionary process, and for all the dads that are listening out there, or for yourself, anyone who's got young boys or whatever the case is, or young children, there was never a handbook for me, and I've only just started to do it a little bit better myself year over year. And so any strategies that I use now in regards to a tiny bit of our son's successes, which I feel like I've got very little to add to. Every year it's a little bit different with each boy as they evolve as human beings, as they grow into their early manhood, and as they start to formalize who they are as a person and what's important to them and their moral compass and so on and so forth. I mean, both boys have a lot of commonalities, and with our family, we generally have a guiding compass direction. But we're all unique people, and sometimes one day it might require an almost immediate, hey, how you doing? And let's talk about what just happened and where are we going from here? And you can kind of dive into that. But yesterday was not the right time. As I felt the energy of the moment, I was, rather than deploying a template response to an unusual situation, which I feel is a flawed strategy, I more prefer to be fluid in the moment, read the energy of the moment, and execute against the real-timeness of what I'm feeling in the room, rather than just barging ahead with a template.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing we can possibly do in any situation is to read the room, really. You got to be able to look at what's happening, see how people are feeling it. And as you said, sometimes an immediate interrogative is required, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta, okay, we need to stop. We need to go over this like right now. But at other times, it's better to just step away, let them process on their own. Have you? The other question I wanted to ask was, you brought your boys who have never really seen you as a soldier, never really seen you as in the company of a large gathering of soldiers.
Yeah, that's true.
Have they talked to you about it at all? Have they made any comments on it at all once you guys were back at the house?
Well, yeah, just a little bit, and it's an interesting, in fact, it's a fascinating question to me because I could talk at this at great length, but I won't. I'll try to keep it short.
We got another
I really
15, 20 minutes. We're good.
No, I'll keep it short. But it is an important question because it does indicate a number of things, perhaps for other people who are listening. And so, a very quick 30-second background. When I left JTF2, I didn't talk about it very much with my family or my boys. I mean, they know a little bit. They've seen some photos, but generally speaking, it's been relatively tight to my chest, and I try not to make too big of a deal out of it. It is kind of a big deal, I suppose, in a sense.
It is.
Yeah, so I'm told. And I think I understand that as well, and less so for myself. I don't look at myself as a big deal or anything special for sure, but certainly the guys that are who served after me or served with me or still serve. I mean, I kind of look at those guys as excellent operators, excellent performers, sort of superhuman beings, whereas I don't categorize myself as that because I know I'm just a human being, but somehow I look at those guys and I see them as superhumans. It's kind of a weird dichotomy, but just trying to keep it real, and that's how I feel. I'm in my head, I'm not as big a deal as the guys that I worked with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and so, as part of that, I've never tried to really explain to my boys how, I suppose, amazing Tier 1 special operators are, and Tier 2 special operators are. And as the ball goes trickling down that sort of totem pole of, we'll call it inspirational awesomeness maybe for my boys, dude, as it turns out, it's no different for anybody that I've ever introduced my boys to as a veteran or a first responder or law enforcement. I try not to separate it too much. You're either awesome or you're not. And if you're serving, dang, unless you've really screwed up, in my books, you're pretty awesome. And so that's the way I like my boys to see acting or retired serving members of our country. They know that people who serve deserve respect, and that's how they've been raised, and that's how they always they'll give a nod to a veteran. They'll give a nod to someone who is wearing medals. They'll give a nod to anyone who deserves a nod, and they know what I believe to be true to deserve a nod. And so they don't know that side of me too much, but this has really been the first time that they've had a more focalized or more immediate surrounding of people who are awesome people. Now, listen, they've been raised around a lot of people, a lot of good, awesome, inspiring people, my wife included, who's far more inspiring than me. And so they're used to awesome, but they've never seen this kind of awesome. And to put not too fine of a point on it, they know so little about this world for me that, they've never heard me really swear in their entire life, maybe 2-3 times, and it's because we're about to hit a deer or something.
Yeah.
But on the drive here, I kind of explained to them, hey, listen, boys, I'm going to be around some old friends, and as you know, I used to swear a fair bit back in the day, and I don't think they really understand the art or the real, true Picasso-like art of being able to swear. I feel like, the tip of the spear kind of took that to the tip of the spear as well. Navy, I understand as well, is quite rough, but dude, I feel like I've got an entire language that my boys have never heard.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So, they've been around some of that this weekend, and they may have heard me drop an F-bomb or two. I know, what shocking.
my
Dad
goodness.
swears.
Yeah.
They know that. It's just that this is perhaps the first time that they're starting to see a little other side of me, which is nice. It's probably time, and I say that in the sense of they were, not to say they were never mature enough to better understand this side of my life, but they're certainly mature enough now. And it's been good. It's been good sharing this experience with them, but more to the point, it's been good having them around other excellent men and women who are excellent leaders with deep and amazing pedigrees that I am awestruck by. So if I'm awestruck by it, certainly my boys are, and that's the kind of people that I want my sons to be around.
Yeah, no doubt. It's you mentioned something earlier about like how you don't see yourself as being anything special, but you look around and you're like, man, these guys and those guys and that guy. And I realize that we do that all the time. When you talk to infanteers and you tell them a story of like, oh yeah, I was just wandering around, I found this IED and I just kind of like kicked it and it was fine, no big deal, right? They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And because they can't picture themselves in that job. And then when the infantry tell the story to the engineers and we're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And you know, it's because you're not in that world, it's not normalized to you. The stuff that you're doing is, it's just it's your everyday, it's your job, right? You show up, you do your job, whatever, cool, man. It's not a big deal. I got no issues with going down on an IED. Sure, cool, I'll wander down there. And I know lots of guys that would not even fucking think about it. They'd be like, roger that, let's roll. But I also know a lot of guys would be like, hell no. You want me to walk through a minefield? Fuck that noise.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, I think super important point coming out of that, at least for me anyway, is, man, you know, sometimes you can just buy into your own hype. And if you're not buying into your own hype, then you're buying into your subunit hype. And if you're not buying into your subunit hype, then you're buying into your trade hype. And all of a sudden, it's us versus them. It's infantry versus SIG's platoon. Well, I mean, that's warranted.
For sure, yeah.
Come
Yeah,
on.
SIG's
a police.
Right?
But there, you know, I've never... I mean, there's times in my career when I sort of thought that, but not like it's super strong. But when I left the military, I could look back with hindsight and more wisdom and see things a bit clearer. And I guess I was going to say you tend to get more clarity and wisdom and understand the universality of service. But yeah, that's a statement that I can honestly make, but it didn't have much teeth in it until this weekend. And so the real teeth to that statement of the universality of service from branch to branch, trade to trade, subunit to subunit, I suppose it's not really about how many burpees you can do or how tight your grouping is or how sharp your battle knife is. Those things are far less important than how you serve.
Yeah.
And not what you're serving, but how you serve. And, you know, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chance, but I understand right now the Canadian military is struggling a little bit with that why, the why of things. And I think that certainly one of the missing elements is, well, two missing elements being an amount of pride in what it is that you do. But I don't think the pride can begin until you address the why. And certainly one of the grand pillars of the why should be service.
Absolutely.
In the military as a whole. And if you're not ready to serve, if you're there for you and you alone, move along. Whatever trade you're in. If you can reach within yourself to just serve the man and woman to your immediate left and right, okay, now you're in the game, and now I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And so that level of service, I think, really is a subject that could be talked about more publicly, more openly, more thoroughly as to why you serve in the military. It is to serve. And then once you're serving well and you're developing some pride in that service, now we're off to the races.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that we always say, and you see it in movies all the time, is that it's about the man next to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And that is the service. And when you expand that into the man next to you, or the section next to you, or the platoon next to you, or the fucking company next to you, or the the province next to you, or the country next to you.
That's right.
You know, you expand service into everything you do.
Well, that's right. And so one of the things that I found interesting this weekend again is, man, I didn't really, because I'm in a unique situation from you in so much that you have stayed in that veteran game from the moment you left the military, maybe not on a minute-to-minute basis, but you remained in the game to some degree, whereas, you know a little bit about my story. When I left JTF2, I literally dropped off the radar and disappeared, and I didn't reach out to any veterans or any such thing. I didn't maintain those connections. So stepping back into the... with my bros again over the last little while has provided me with a fresh set of old eyes, and that's an interesting combination, to step back into this game after a couple of decades and look at it freshly, but with an old set of eyes, maybe a touch of wisdom, so that I can maybe help out in a little bit of a different way. And I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think that your perspective and my perspective, though there's a lot of commonalities between the two, you would have a unique sense of things as opposed to my unique sense of things. And I guess the important thing coming out of that is, well, who cares? Because it's not like you're way over there and I'm way over here and we ain't combining forces. Our unique perspectives combined is what is starting to drive perhaps a new renaissance of veterans, first responders, and law enforcement who are starting to look around and look for ways to not do it by themselves anymore, but look for ways to do it better for themselves with others. And then in so doing, as they serve themselves and serve their new close-knit friends, it starts building with a little bit of momentum, some greater service-driven efforts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole reason we're here, right?
That's right.
And not only the fact that we're not, on different planes of existence or anything, we're literally sitting right beside each other.
Well, that's right.
Exchanging our experience and passing it on to the world. That's the whole point of what we're doing here, right? And so when you think of Pegasus jump, right, and your experience here in the last little while, what's one of the lessons that you've come out of here with so far? I mean, you still got another day or so, but what's something that you have, come to realization about? Or,
well, I mean, the realization that I've been having right from the get-go, right up until this very second as I'm answering this. So in real time, I'm providing you my realization as it unfolds in real time. So let me paint a picture for you. Approximately a year-ish ago, I would have been tracking you on the IG, and along with a number of other characters that I was keeping my eye on to better understand the veteran community as a whole and see what the general sense was out there. And so, I had my eye on you digitally, but I never knew you as a person. But as time went by, I started to get to know you a little bit better through social media. And I'm not a big social media guy, as you know. In fact, it's a bit of an inside joke how bad I am at it. But, through a process, I got to know you better. And of course, the first podcast I ever did was your podcast. And so that was another good opportunity for me to interact with you on a personal basis where we were digitally. I would say that, as I got to know you better, and after that first podcast, where we were, for lack of a better term, becoming digital pen pals, I've been introduced to more veterans, and through our small private Instagram little collective that we have, a bunch of good, wise veterans that I can bounce ideas off, and they can bounce ideas off me, and collectively we bounce ideas off each other and help calibrate each other in a way that has far more power than just me in isolation, deeply contemplating things myself. And so what I found is that through the process of getting to know individuals, and then getting to know you, and then getting to know social media better, and then starting to get connected to people who are on podcasts or going on podcasts, and understanding the broader veteran community around me, I had a digital sense of things. And I think I had a pretty good sense of things. But listen, here's the truth. When I stepped through that compound gate for the first time and scanned the perimeter to see who's who in the zoo, half of the characters that I was looking at, I either knew from back in the day or I knew from my social media world. And there was very little difference. When I stepped up to you, I hardly even made it a big deal. Like, it wasn't like a big bro hug. Oh my God. I mean, there was a bit of a hug, and it was a bit of a bro moment. Hey, good to see you in 3D.
Yeah.
But that wasn't as big a deal as it should have been, because quite frankly, I felt like I already knew you before I poked you in the chest as a 3-dimensional image. 2-dimensional was enough over a period of time for me to get to know you as a human being, because the pair of us on social media were being honest and transparent and forthright, and if there was something that either of us needed to chat about, well, we kept it real. It wasn't a matter of only talking about sparkly, shiny things that were fun. It was a matter of just being bros that are keeping it real. And every veteran that I've communicated with over the last year, as long as I keep it real and they keep it real, I find that we get to places that we need to get to. And so back to this gathering this weekend, and there's hardly any distinction between my social media world and this world that I'm sitting in right now, this DZ. It's the same group of awesome people who are the same people that they are on social media, just as they are as they walk past me in a 3-dimensional world. And I couldn't be happier about that. But quite frankly, I am not surprised.
It's pretty nice to be able to actually shake people's hands.
For sure it is.
But at the, as you said, we're the same people. Like, nothing changed. For sure. Right? Other than the fact that you had to look up at me instead of looking down at
well,
your
that
computer.
Was, that's most of my life. I'm a bit of a short guy, and this is no surprise to me.
Yeah.
So,
well,
sorry, I must add one more thing.
By all means.
That's probably a partial answer, because coming here this weekend, it was great to see all of the people that I've never seen in 3D, but perhaps even more importantly, probably more importantly, there's people here that I've never seen before on social media.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I don't know why I didn't know them, or why I had never talked to them, or why I wasn't aware of their story, or I mean, I've been inspired more in the last 24 hours by people that I didn't know existed. And that's probably the biggest takeaway for me from just the last, this weekend. It's just only been 24 hours of the weekend.
Yeah.
That there's freaking awesome people here that I didn't know about, I should have known about, and people out there should know about.
I couldn't agree more, and that's one of the reasons why I brought all my gear.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously, I mean, I could talk to them, and I'm a little bit selfish because, well, I like talking to people, and I could spend the time out here, and I could be jumping on airplanes and stuff, and that'd be great times. Or I could sit down and have really meaningful conversations, talking about the stuff that everybody uses every day to just manage. And I think it's so great to see the different groups of people from different backgrounds all just coming to the same place and being open. Like, everyone felt comfortable here. I've talked to a number of people already. The moment they walked in the gate, there was no awkwardness. There was no, I don't know if I don't really know that guy. It was just hey man, where are you coming from? How's it going? It was just instant.
Well, that's right. And so to add more to that, that is one aspect of that commonality, familiarity, initial connection, because we all have a shared common experience through our military service or veteran or first responder, law enforcement, whatever you make of it. But man, like, I know you well enough. I know some of these other guys well enough that we don't need to podcast. And so, I look back last night, we sat around and talked for 3-4 hours openly about a number of things. And I'll tell you what, there was some really good, deep, soulful, amazing conversations that should have been recorded last night. Yeah. And quite frankly, we could do that every single night for the next week, naturally, organically, transparently, everyone moving forward in a positive manner and feeling stoked about all of it. But it's only happening because we're all super comfortable with each other and we're open to the experience. But man, when we all leave here and we all head back to our own little mountain shires, I know that it will continue for us as a core group because we're already connected. But my biggest, not concern, but my biggest focus now is not just the people that I immediately know, but some of these other folks here that I'd love to get to know better. How to engage them in the process so that when we're not all together, when we are digitally a collective, how do we make the conversation that happened last night free flowing and in the moment, but not being recorded? How do we use those kind of things? But now we're in the social media setting.
That is the continual challenge of basically everything we do, right?
That's right.
And one of the biggest reasons that I've continued podcasting is that specific reason, is because the conversations need to be broadcast. And there was a moment actually last night when you looked at me and like, man, why aren't you recording all this? And I was like, I've been thinking about it for like the last 45 minutes, but I knew that like getting up, trying to get the gear out, trying to get it all set up would have just ruined that moment.
Yeah,
and
perhaps.
Maybe, but
not for me.
Not for you, but well, come on now. If you just saw me just pull out mics and be like, guys, talk into the microphone.
I'm you know what? If you would have, that challenge that, I know it's not a challenge, but that semi-challenge that you've just stated, I would have affirmed that half a year ago. I would have said, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have been able to operate under those conditions because it's unnatural, it's flow breaking, it's artificial, almost a constructed thing. But man, you're talking to a guy who tapes his smartphone or bungee cords his smartphone to a tree in the middle of nowhere and talks to it. And so now I'm well over that. I mean, there could be dancing bears coming through and I'd be okay.
Well, that's fine. I mean, the benefit is that the more you do it, the less it bothers you.
Well, that's right.
And I mean, it's the same thing for doing anything hard, right? You just keep doing it until it's not hard anymore.
Well, that's right.
And the one thing I loved about the fact that you tape shit to the tree, you tape your phone to the tree, is you take the time to not only bungee cord it to the tree, but then go back up the trail.
That's right.
And then ride back down.
That's right.
And then get out. And, like, it's one of those what is it, the PSA moments when you guy drives by, hey, I didn't see you there, right? Like,
hey, there's a camera bungee corded to a tree. Fancy that. Well, now that I'm here, maybe I'll talk into it. Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, that's right.
I'm here, yeah. That's fantastic.
How impromptu.
So, I just want to, first off, I really want to thank you for being here and for being on here. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you for the last couple of days, as well for the last couple of months. And I think that there's a lot of really solid lessons that are coming out of this that a lot of people are gathering from it, and people are learning and talking and being in that moment with each other, which is what I think Pegasus Jump is doing for everybody, is giving them that opportunity to just really be here and do something hard together and grow and build and fly on to somewhere else and do the same thing.
That's right, and I only see it being bigger next year. Year 2 of Operation Pegasus Jump, I anticipate it being much larger than it is, and it's already pretty large right now.
Yeah.
I would consider this already 100% success, so I can't imagine what's higher than 100% for next year.
110.
Well, bring it on.
All right. Well, thank you very much, brother. It has been my pleasure. We'll keep talking later.
You know it, buddy.
Chimo.
Chimo.
That concludes another episode of The Toolbox. I really appreciate y'all listening. It has been my absolute pleasure bringing you this guest. If you enjoyed what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, do all that other wicked stuff. It helps me keep the lights on. To all those out there putting it on the line every day, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. Military, veterans, first responders, civil servants, you name it. Keep this place running, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you. Don't forget, stay open, stay humble, stay focused, with grace, not slack. Chimo.